Hello, Baby Lock Serger friends. This is Glenda Martian, Texas. Several of y'all asked that I demonstrate the double bias binder. I was working on a little project, thought this might be something that you'd enjoy seeing. My inspiration was a free project off the AccuQuilt.com website. It's a Critters to Go baby bib. I had intended to do these critters, but didn't do that. Opted for something else, but I did use their instructions. Their suggestion was to use a 1/4 yard of terry toweling or a hand towel and cut it to about an 8 by 10. Well, this is what I started with. This was going to be a baby gift, so I started with a small washcloth, and originally I started with the 28 millimeter, the small double fold bias binder. Well, this doesn't work for me on this big hand towel or washcloth, so you can see how tiny it is. So I quickly decided to move to the regular 38 millimeter or 1.5 inch double fold bias binder. I had absolutely no luck getting that, even using this one onto this washcloth, so I put it on by machine and may still use it. So then I opted to use some fabric. I'd made a quilt for this little baby and decided to use some of the coordinating fabric. I first did the bias fold here, double bias fold on the neck. Had a little bit of difficulty with it. Quite a bit of difficulty initially getting this onto around the edges, but you can see it makes, I think, a really cute baby gift. And so I'm hoping to offer you a few tips on doing this, and I'll kind of try to talk about those as I go along. So this is our one that we're going to be working with today. I've gone ahead and sewed the neck on. I have to tell you that I probably ripped this out about 3 or 4 times before I actually got it to go on like I wanted it to. I have decided that having a nice smooth curve, I did recut the curve, and when I did that, then the neck part went on really well. I did find on this other one, these were the curves weren't gentle enough. I have mentioned this product before, so I got out this round the corner. This is a June Taylor small template, and I did find that once I used the large round side and cut it out to match that, it went much smoother. So again, that's one of my pieces of advice. If you've got your curve too sharp, it's not going to feed as easily through there. So I went ahead initially and have cut this one, both sides with this. I just folded this in half and just cut one time. So once I trimmed out this neck to make it smoother, it seemed to go on a lot easier. So that's what we're going to be trying to work on right now. I did want to show you the different settings. Of course, I refer to my manual. There are several that we have available to us. Of course, our book gives us, and I'm using the Ovation. This I know will work on the Evolution because I had the same feet when I had it. So the chain cover stitch needle tension right up here, I'm just setting it on a 5. That's kind of the standard one. And then the chain looper tension, you remember, is separate over here where we thread for the chain stitch, and I've got it set pretty much in the middle right here on the chain stitch. Look at your dial, make sure you don't have it on cover stitch, because remember the tensions are different for cover and chain stitch. So I have it pretty much in the middle for chain stitch. I am using the cover stitch foot, that narrower foot. As I recall, you can use your metal foot. It's just the placement would be a little bit different where I'm looking on the narrower chain stitch foot. I am using the double fold, the larger double fold bias binder, the 28 millimeter, or as the instruction sheet that comes with that foot, this is the 1.5 inch chain stitch. I am using the cover stitch 3 needle because we want it to be close to the edge of the fold when it goes through here. Of course, our blade is locked, y'all know that. And then I'm using a stitch length. You can't see that on the film, but I'm using almost to a 4. The suggestion stitch length is 3 to 4. You can also, of course, refer to your quick reference threading guide. So we're using C3, the right needle here, as I mentioned. Of course, you have to have that sewing table on here. Y'all know that, because that's how we're going to hook our attachment onto here. Okay, so with those settings, we'll give this a go. I did notice one thing I wanted to show you. You always want to allow extra binding when you do this, because I think starting out, do not do this when you're tired or late at night, because sometimes it's a little bit hard to see if you miss something. So I've got this pretty much the way I wanted it. This is my top for the bib. So I have just the stitch on the top side, and of course you can see, if you were looking at it up close, the chain stitches on the bottom here. So I am just going to trim these off, because I do have it like I want it. This may be my sample. I may or may not send this other as a gift. I did find, according to the directions, I'm cutting this is just a cotton, so I cut these bias strips, and I know y'all know that they have to be on the bias since we're doing a curve. I cut the 1 3/8 inch width for this. There are some suggestions if you're using a heavier fabric. I did also starch these. Now we're going to try this with this sharp angle. I have found that if you make a little smaller angle, we'll see how this works. It sometimes works a little bit better. But I have starched this. It's fairly stiff. I did sew it together, at the angle where I joined these pieces. I had very little fabric left, so I'm hoping this is enough. I'm going to kind of guess at this, fold this in half, and just kind of get an idea of where I want to feed through or put in the edge of the bib when I get to this point. So ideally, I think I'll just mark that right now with a little pen. You can use a water-soluble or a heat-soluble, piece. You want to have your, and actually I started that on the wrong side. So let's see, let's just do it this way. Sorry. My trusty helper here, my good husband, is trying to film this for me, which he says it's not always easy to do. So I appreciate him doing that. Okay, so I'm going to stick this here. And of course, y'all know that your fabric, the wrong side goes toward, towards you. And you need some kind of pointy device to try to push this through. I'm going to try turning this a little bit this way so he doesn't have to move the camera so much. And you can take your foot off. Sometimes I think it might be a little bit easier. Take your tweezers or a hemostat. We're going to pull this. And what I was getting at on the angle there is if your diagonal is too sharp, then it's hard to get it straightened out. So again, I'm just going to bring this foot in from the left, and I can already, and see, you can tell I'm still used to having that foot lever up here in the back. So make sure your needle is going to catch here. You can't see, but it's not lined up yet. Now I'm going to have to just sew a little bit. I'm not going to have, I can tell, much left to go around this. So I probably should have made this bib a little bit smaller. So this may be my sample. Alright, so make sure your foot's down. Once you start this, you'll see here how you can see how it's rolling into this area here. And I'm watching also back in the back, because once I get it going pretty good, and I think that looks fine, you want to make sure that your needle is near the edge where the fold is. I like this foot because I can see a little bit better about what's going on. So we're going to try and feed this through. I'm going to push it up a little bit. This is another project you want to sew slow on. Now we know our sergers go fast, and I tend to be one who wants to go fast on stuff, but this will not work. And that's a little bit thick, so I'm going to cut that off because it doesn't really want to feed. The other thing I did on these, because it is 2 layers, so the back also looks nice, is I did kind of base this together all around these edges just to kind of hold them together. So let's see if this is going to The other thing that I did do on this one and I did in the other is I did use an interfacing. Okay, now that I've got this going, you can see that it's picked it up. I did use an interfacing, which did make this cotton a little bit thicker. So that may be part of, you know, the issue here. And I'm probably missing some of this, so we'll see how it works. And I'm pretty sure I did. Okay. So if you have to stop, which I did have to do several times getting this going. Okay, I've just released that. You do have to pull your thread or your fabric. The only way I found is to pull it on through your guide to be able to start over. And again, I will re-iron this piece of fabric. We'll try this one more time. We're going to stop the camera and pause it and see if we can start over. And pick up where we left off. I did make a few adjustments here. I did find that this angle is too sharp, so when I redid this, I actually cut it more like so. So that's tended to work better going through there to be able to pull it out underneath where your needle and foot is. The other thing I did on this particular fabric, and I don't know if it's because I did interface both sides as opposed to one that I had done on the previous one. It's a little bit thick going through up here, so there's kind of a little glitch there, but I am not going to redo that. So anyway, I want you just to kind of watch. I've got it going, I've kind of got it started. So the needle is moved, or the foot is moved so that it's pretty much in the middle. It's not exactly, you know, on the edge. So you'll see how this is curling over this little piece of the attachment. And then I have this up pretty close. I'm just kind of holding this up and you'll see how it rolls. And I'm going to just try to gently, slowly go around this curve. And someone mentioned about it cupping, and you know, I'm no expert. It's just I've enjoyed trying to make some of these for gifts. I am going to go to the Serger getaways. This is going to be one of my questions when I get there, is about using this foot, because I think this would make really cute gifts. So again, this was a little bit easier, and again I used that large curve June Taylor roundabout. I am also holding this fairly firmly to keep it up, going up near the attachment here. You can see I've got it almost rolled up onto the side, if you can make that out on, you know, on our camera here. Now again, I'm coming down to this area, and this was pretty thick, so I'm going to hope that it pulls it on through and doesn't skip it. And then now we're just finishing our tabs here, tied string tabs. And we'll see how we come out. This is going to be my mock-up that I'll keep as kind of a sample. Okay, so let's see how we did here. If you can look at the chain stitching on the back, and I think nope, we didn't. There might be one little spot here, and I'm going to tell you a little trick. Those of you who live in Texas, Barbara Goldcorn at So Much More in Austin does some terrific instructions, and she has a Serger club once every couple of months. Next week is our monthly one. If you guys ever have a chance to go and see her, it's a video demonstration with great handouts. I think we're pretty good on this. You can see that I might have well, I think that's probably enough to do the tie. What I'll be doing on these ends is just cutting these off, what I did on the other one. Just cut them off straight, and of course I just rolled mine under and then just did a little tack stitch on those, and I thought it looked fine. Now, the last thing I'm going to share with you, sometimes we have to cheat. And if you've never used this, sewing in a tube, unique stitch, I never knew about this till Barbara told us about it at So Much More. So I can tell you that there's one little area right here, that didn't quite catch in the stitching. So what I'm going to do with a toothpick and some of this unique stitch glue is I'm just going to roll that in there. This stuff is washable, won't come apart, so I'm just going to put a piece of that, a little strip of that inside there to glue that down. So if you need to cheat a little bit, nobody's ever going to notice that except you, which we sewers are not the best in the world. We're always showing our mistakes. So just kind of enjoy. A couple of you had asked about that you might be interested in seeing. I've never done, but I wanted to try using 7 stitches at one time. And so this is just a little project that I did. Our Quilt Guild does donation quilts to Harris NICU for the prematures. And so this is just an example of what I did on one of those little coverlets. This is a 3-thread cover stitch with the wave stitch. So you are using quite a few needles and threads. So I'm going to be doing this more on some of these donation quilts. So I do want to thank you for watching. I hope this is helpful to you. You do need to drive slow on this little puppy, but have a good time doing it. I think it can make some really cute gifts. And I think once you get your settings just where you want them, then it's a good project, and it's really not that difficult when you have the right attachment. Okay, so thanks for watching.